Hi everyone, my name is Hannah. My story is about my relationship with my mom and how difficult it was, and what this meant to me in general. I think there are people among you who will understand me. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you have similar stories. I'd love for you to tell me about them. My mom and I lived alone. I don't have a father. He left as soon as he found out my mom was expecting a baby with him. My mom said he was a coward and a wimp. I grew up with the idea that these two qualities, which my mother hated, must not be shown in me. I couldn't be weak, and I couldn't be afraid. I tried my best to be strong, to be something meaningful to my mother, but I didn't always succeed. She often stayed late at work, and when she came home, she wasn't in a good mood. I would run toward her, jumping out of bed, and she wouldn't even look in my direction.
Mom, how are you? I'm so happy to see you.
Why aren't you asleep? I told you to go to bed early. I'm working late and you have school tomorrow. Have you seen the time?
Yes, Mom, I'll go to bed.
I lay down on the bed, and my mother lay down next to me. My stomach rumbled all over the room with hunger.
Mom?
What do you want?
I'm hungry.
I have no more money to buy food. I left you some toast.
I ate it.
You have to save money. How many times do I have to tell you? I only ate once today, but you don't care, do you?
I'm sorry, Mom. I won't do it again. Can I hug you? I missed you so much.
I missed you. But I didn't really have time to miss you because I've been working like hell. If you missed me, you've been doing nothing. You had homework to do.
Good night, Mom.
But she didn't even answer me. She didn't say sweet dreams back. She just went to sleep. That's how every day went. On rare days, my mom had a day off and she'd sleep most of the day, or she'd scold me.
How many times do I have to tell you? Where do your hands grow out of? You broke another plate. How could you do that? Can't you wash dishes properly?
She was always criticizing me. I think she wanted me to grow up perfect, and I tried my best, but it still didn't work out. So a couple more years went by, and then one day a girl named Monica came to our school. It turned out that we were neighbors. They'd recently moved in. Often after school, Monica would come to my house. We were huddled up in a small room. She'd call me over to her house to eat, but I'd refuse. Then one day, her mother came to my house to pick up her daughter, and I fainted. They took me to the hospital, where the doctor said that I'd fainted from hunger. Her mother immediately grabbed me and took me to her house, and they fed me there to my heart's content. And it became a tradition. Monica's family loved me so much, feeding me every day, doing homework with me. I only went back to my house to change and sleep. One day my mom was going through my things and asked, "Where did you get your new sneakers and these clothes?"
Monica's parents bought me those.
What? Do you look that pathetic? Do they think I can't buy you shoes or something?
No, they just wanted to help. That's all.
I don't need their help. I don't even know them. I forbid you to talk to them, okay? Do you have any idea how pathetic and disgusting that makes me look?
I cried.
You're pathetic. You're 10 years old and you still don't have a brain.
I'm sorry, Mom.
You don't understand anything. Oh, if it weren't for you, my life wouldn't be as miserable as it is now. My baby is being clothed and fed by other people. They probably think about what a shitty mother I am every time.
They don't say that, Mom.
Not to you, but behind your back. Do you think people do good for nothing? They must have spread the word to the whole neighborhood about how we live here.
My mother was furious. I didn't want to upset her, so I stopped talking to them. But Monica still brought me dinner and lunch every day and left them under the door. I wanted to eat so badly, but I wouldn't take any. I was afraid my mother would find out. Then Monica's mom came over one night and decided to talk her into letting me and Monica socialize, but my mom told them to go fuck themselves. I was so ashamed of her. Monica's mom wasn't offended. She secretly made me a bank card and secretly gave it to me, and kept me funded so I could buy food and clothes. I hid that card and tried to spend as little as possible. So the years went by. Monica and her family and I were still secretly friends. I went to college on a budget, studied hard, and worked to support myself. There were days when my mom would not come home for weeks, and when she did come back, she wouldn't tell me anything or talk to me at all. I grew up, by which point my mother had gone to an unknown destination. I made great strides in my job, became a great marketer, worked in a big office, and made good money. I bought an apartment, but I hardly ever went there because I worked all the time. I only had contact with Monica, helped her parents, bought gifts, groceries sometimes, and gave them money for some medical services. All in all, I was happy without her, without my mother. Only sometimes it did get a little sad. Sometimes she would come to my house unannounced, stay for a couple of days, and then she'd leave unexpectedly. She wouldn't call, wouldn't write. I learned to ignore her.
Oh, hi, daughter. How are you? Have you already left work?
I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
Maybe we could have dinner together. I brought groceries and cooked. Your fridge was a mess.
Just like when I was a kid, huh?
How about we watch a movie, huh?
I told you, I'm tired. When are you leaving?
Soon I'm leaving.
I silently went into my room, wanting to take a shower, but my mother shouted to me that she had stage 3 cancer and that she was dying. At first, I froze, but then I left for the bathroom without looking back. She was gone by morning. She was gone, again, and I was left to live with her last phrase in my head. I felt very, very bad, but I tried to hide it. Day by day, I closed down more and more. Monica pulled me out, scolding me for not responding to her messages for 2 weeks, and pulled me to her house. When we got there, her mom fed me. Then we sat by the fireplace, and she told me that she'd seen my mom. That's when I couldn't help myself. I burst into tears.
She never loved me because I'm not perfect. I'm not what she wanted me to be. How could she come to me and tell me she was sick? How?
My girl, I think it's not easy for her either. Some moms love their kids but don't know how to show it. You know? Your mom made a lot of mistakes, but she admits them, and she wants to ask you for forgiveness.
What should I do?
I wasn't willing to listen, until finally I gave up. A month later, I found her in a hospice for cancer patients. I went to her in the hospital, silently handed her a bag of food, and went to leave.
Wait, daughter. Sit down for 5 minutes.
What do you want? I'm busy.
I just wanted to say...
She suddenly cried so bitterly.
I'm sorry I wasn't a decent mom. I'm sorry I let you down.
Let me down? You raised me with the idea that I wasn't worthy of you, your labor, your money, your time, and love. You wanted me to be perfect, and now I am.
And you always have been. You've always been the perfect child, and I'm a coward and a wuss. I could never once tell you how much I loved you, that I didn't succeed in this life, that I'm a failure, and I don't deserve you.
She said many more words, but I remember those the most. It was the first time she poured her heart out, and I stood and cried, listening to her.
I'm sorry, please. I will never forgive you. I can't forgive you for leaving me, for appearing and disappearing whenever you wanted, for never loving me. I know, but I'm sorry, I'm a bad mother.
The tears flowed like a river. I clenched my fists and walked up to her.
I won't forgive you, ever. But we can try to start over, try to live differently.
Mom hugged me and we froze. For the first time, I could feel her heart beating next to mine, and it was good. We decided to try to live a new life, at least for a little while there was time left. I decided to give not only her, but also myself a chance. So after the hospital, we went on a trip for a week. Now I think it's the best decision we ever made.
When we arrived home, my mother admired the cleanliness and delicious dinner. But then, after a couple of days, when she rested and slept off the jet lag, I began to notice that she was different. Hello everyone, my name is Julie, and I have a mother who will beat anyone's. And all because she is 18 years old. Well, at least she thinks so. Do you want to know how it happened and what the pros and cons are? Then watch, and do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I am also waiting for comments from you. Write your opinion under the video. I will appreciate it. In general, I lived with mom and dad for a long time, but then a difficult financial period came into our life, and this was due to our family's debts. Dad decided to open some business, and as you know, any business requires a lot of investment. Due to the fact that we did not calculate the capital, we had to get into debt. And when our family crossed the line of real opportunities, it was decided to earn money not here, but abroad. Dad couldn't give up what he was doing, so we stayed at home. And Mom left. Of course, I didn't want to let her go, and besides, I'm very attached to her. But there was no other way. So she collected the documents, got a visa, and left. I cannot tell you how hard it was for me to live just with my father, because my mother used to run the farm, and after her departure, everything fell on my shoulders. I was almost 15 years old at the time. I didn't really know how to cook, wash, or clean, but I had to learn quickly. So I pulled myself together and started everything from scratch on my own. My mother found a good job, and within 2 years, we were able to spread out debts, as well as level the business. Plus, we saved up for our house, car, and things went well. That's when my father told my mother to come home. At first, my mother did not hide her longing for me. She cried every time we talked on the phone, but then her calls became less frequent. It upset me because I wanted her attention, but she wasn't there. My father was almost always busy at work, so I was on my own. After school, I came home and did household chores. I didn't have time to go out with friends. The only consolation was the books. I slipped a little in my studies, but it was not critical. The teachers at the school knew about my situation and were more lenient with me. Through persuasion, my mother still came. It was an exciting day. We went to the airport to meet my mother. My father bought a large bouquet of her favorite flowers, and I cooked a turkey in the oven. But already at the airport, I noticed that my mother was not the same person. The woman standing in front of us with a suitcase was not the woman we knew. Previously, my mother dressed more appropriately for her age. She was already 44 years old, but there she stood in short white shorts, a pink t-shirt with the inscription, "I am a princess," and she was wearing a cap and large glasses. I was surprised, but my dad and I decided it was just clothes, nothing more. We were wrong. All the way home, my mother talked about the city where she worked, about its beauty and the people. My father and I couldn't even get a word in. When we arrived home, my mother admired the cleanliness and delicious dinner, but then, after a couple of days, when she rested and slept off the jet lag, I began to notice that she was different. First thing in the morning, my mother did not make breakfast, as before. She ran to the bathroom and put on makeup. It was not clear why. After that, she put on her sundresses, youth overalls, did her hair, and only then went to breakfast. By the way, yes, I continued to cook. My father would quickly leave for work, and it would just be the two of us. When I came home from school, she was talking on the phone. The house was not cleaned, and there was nothing cooked. I changed my clothes and made lunch, and after I did my homework, made dinner. I tried to justify my mother by saying that she was tired, or had not yet adapted, but it was not so. My mother often went out, made connections with former unmarried friends. She came home late and sometimes drunk. There was another teenager in the house. In short, every time my friends came to see me, my mother sat in our room all evening and talked to us. They didn't even pay attention to me. They chatted with her all the time. My mom kept asking them about guys, giving them seduction tips, and laughing. I was envied by all my classmates. Like, my mom is so modern, but it wasn't very cool. Then one day, I met a guy named Dave. He was wonderful and asked me out right away and came home to pick me up. My mother opened the door. She didn't know who he was, and I noticed that she was trying to flirt with him. Dave almost fell through the ground from embarrassment. She could not see herself from the outside. I quickly left with him, and he asked, "Is that your sister?" I was never so embarrassed. I told the truth, and he said enthusiastically that it was cool when my mother was like me. I came home from the date and found my mother singing karaoke to the whole house. She put the music on at full volume, danced, freaked out, smoked. I never saw her smoke. When she saw me, she didn't hide, but offered me cigarettes and handed me a glass of red liquid. "Let's party," she shouted. It was terrible. She went shopping almost every day, sometimes dragging me along with her. She chose the same things for me as for herself. How can you do that? She was my mother. People around me were surprised when I called her Mom, and I felt ashamed. In the end, even my father noticed this, and he made a remark to her to pull herself together, start doing things around the house. Then in response, she locked herself in the bathroom, shouted from there that we do not love her, and cried loudly. And then I got out of there, packed up, and went somewhere else. That night, Dad got a call from the station. It turned out that she got drunk at the club, broke a window there, got into a fight with some girl, and got rowdy at the station. Rumors spread all over the city. The uncontrollable teenager in the face of my mother went off the rails. It was necessary to do something, and we decided to take her to a psychologist. She resisted for a long time, resented us, but eventually went anyway. The psychologist said that my mother is now going through a teenage life in her head because in her childhood, she did not experience this period. She really did have a difficult childhood. She lost her mother early and had to work from the age of 15. And at the moment when everything got better in life, money appeared and my father and I were not around, she turned back into a teenager. It can be cured, but it takes time. We made her promise to visit a specialist. In the meantime, I still put up with an 18-year-old mother who steals my makeup. This is simply unthinkable. Tell me, guys, are we doing everything right? And what would you advise us to do?